The story begins by introducing a girl named Kaya, who has taken on the role of both an older sister and a mother to her younger sibling after their mother passed away about a year ago. Kaya often misses her mom, and today she plans to go on a healing trip with her best friend, Tisa. Before leaving, Kaya asks her father for permission, and though he offers her some pocket money, she politely declines, not wanting to burden him. Besides, she's not planning to go to expensive places like malls or karaoke. Driving her trusty white car, Kaya crosses the long Surah-Hawaii Bridge, which spans a beautiful ocean, perfect for fishing and enjoying the view. Once she arrives at the meeting point, Tessa greets her enthusiastically and shares their plan to have fun on a remote and beautiful island. Tessa also introduces her new boyfriend, Ray, who happens to own a boat rental service for trips like this. To make sure Kaya doesn't feel out of place, Tessa has arranged for a friend named Sender, who is Ray's close buddy, to accompany Kaya. Even though Kaya isn't sure if she likes Sender, Tissa's main goal is to spend time with her new boyfriend without Kaya feeling left out. While Ray and Sender prepare the gear for the trip, Kaya takes a moment to video call her younger sibling. Although she feels reluctant to leave her sibling home alone, she eventually agrees to go because she doesn't want to disappoint Tisa. 2 boats set off toward the remote island, and Kaya slowly starts to enjoy the trip. Sender turns out to be a kind and easygoing guy, which makes things better for her. Once they arrive at the island, Tessa and Ray relax together, doing what you can probably imagine. Meanwhile, Kaya and Sender sit by the shore, admiring the ocean view and chatting about topics like the chaotic state of politics. Despite her initial hesitation, Kaya begins to feel that this trip might not be so bad after all. They decided to swim together, and to their surprise they encountered wild boars that had been living on the island for over 40 years. The 4 of them seemed to have a great time, exploring the seabed and coral reefs, while playfully splashing water at each other. But their fun eventually led to chaos. Ray, trying to show off, started speeding recklessly on his jet ski, which terrified Tisa. Sure enough, he lost control, and both of them were thrown off the jet ski. Meanwhile, Kaya and Sender were so engrossed in gazing into each other's eyes that they didn't notice Ray and Tisa falling in front of them. What happened next was catastrophic. Ray was fatally struck by the speeding jet ski. The others were left floating in the water, surrounded by the wreckage of 2 destroyed jet skis. The 3 survivors, Kaya, Sender, and Tessa, were stranded in the middle of the ocean with no one aware of their location. Drifting aimlessly, Kaya and Tisa desperately screamed for help, but instead of rescuers, a shark appeared, circling them ominously. Fortunately, the shark turned away after hearing the sound of an approaching fishing boat. They screamed even louder, hoping the fishermen would hear them. Finally, they were rescued by one of the fishermen who happened to be passing by. However, Sender was in critical condition, suffering from severe injuries and significant blood loss. The fisherman asked what had happened, and Kaya explained that there were originally 4 of them, but one, Ray, had tragically died in an accident. She begged the fisherman to call for help immediately, as Sender and Tisa needed urgent medical attention. The fisherman went inside his cabin, presumably to use the radio to call for assistance, but something felt off. Instead of making the call, the fisherman peered at them suspiciously through a window, watching the injured Sender struggle. Worried about Tessa, who had gone inside to get some water but hadn't returned after several minutes, Kaya decided to follow her, sensing something was wrong.
I'll be right back.
While searching for Tisa, Kaya unexpectedly encountered the fisherman, who had just exited a room. When asked about Tisa, he claimed not to know, his demeanor suspicious as he fiddled with a handkerchief and a bottle of sedative. Before Kaya could react, the fisherman subdued her and locked both Kaya and Tisa in the ship's hold. Sender, critically injured and unconscious, was left behind, his fate unknown. When Kaya and Tisa regained consciousness, they began searching for a way out of the dimly lit, cramped hold. The only door to the deck was locked tightly. During their search, Tessa discovered a chilling message carved into the wooden wall, the word "help," suggesting that others had been trapped here before. Their realization added to their fear and hopelessness. The next morning, the fisherman brought food to them, but ignored their desperate pleas. Kaya begged him to release them, explaining that her young sibling needed her, and Tessa required urgent medical attention for her rib injury. The fisherman, however, showed no sympathy, shoving Kaya back when she tried to climb out. He locked the door again, leaving them without food. Starving and exhausted, Kaya and Tisa's situation grew increasingly dire. Later that day, a motorboat arrived, carrying a surgeon who was clearly familiar with the fisherman. The surgeon examined Sender without surprise and ordered the fisherman to keep him hydrated. When he turned to Tisa, it seemed for a moment he might help her, but instead he coldly assessed her condition, ensuring she was fit for their operation. The horrifying truth soon became clear. The fisherman and surgeon were part of a human trafficking ring that specialized in organ harvesting. The fisherman captured victims, while the surgeon extracted and sold their organs. What had started as a survival story at sea became something far worse. Kaya and Tessa were now trapped in the hands of a ruthless syndicate, their lives in imminent danger.
How much for the two kids?
$5,000 each. Saving lives.
Sender, too weak to resist, became the first victim of the organ traffickers. The doctor performed the brutal procedure on the ship's deck, showing no mercy. Kaya and Tessa, trapped below deck, could only watch helplessly, tears streaming down their faces as they witnessed the horror. Once the procedure was finished, Sender's lifeless body was discarded into the sea. Kaya and Tisa feared they would be next. That afternoon, the doctor and fisherman came below deck. The doctor took photos of Kaya to send to their boss for a potential sale. Tisa, already badly injured, was prepared for the same fate as Sender. As night approached, the traffickers began preparing Tisa for surgery. Kaya, seeing an opportunity, discovered a hatch above her bunk. She spent an hour struggling to pry it open, eventually succeeding. Crawling onto the deck, she tried using the ship's radio to call for help, but the fisherman entered the control room, forcing Kaya to hide. Desperate, she snuck into the fisherman's quarters and found a spear gun. The traffickers continued their preparations, unaware of Kaya's plan. Kaya fired the spear gun at the doctor, hitting him in the chest. As he fell, Tisa, mustering her strength, stabbed him from behind, ensuring he wouldn't survive. Hearing the commotion, the fisherman rushed to the scene but was too late. Kaya and Tisa had already escaped, swimming toward the doctor's motorboat. The fisherman tried to start his ship's engine, but Kaya had sabotaged it, leaving him stranded. Kaya reached the motorboat and used the radio to contact the authorities. Although they responded, she couldn't provide an exact location. The police instructed her to find a distress beacon to help them track her. Meanwhile, Tessa urged Kaya to go ahead without her, knowing her injury would slow them down. Kaya found a flare gun, which the police had explained would only be visible to nearby ships. Determined to get help, She continued searching and eventually located the device that could activate a distress signal. To use it, she would have to throw it into the water, where it would automatically activate. Just as she was about to do so, she realized someone had arrived, none other than the fisherman. Before she could throw the device, she had to hide again inside to avoid him, and she grabbed the flare gun, hoping to surprise the fisherman. However, the fisherman quickly caught up with her and knocked her out from behind. He restrained her, pulling her head close to his, then stabbed her in the stomach with a knife. Though the wound wasn't fatal, Kaya collapsed, but her instinct to survive kicked in. Despite her pain, she used her charm to distract the fisherman, and when he let his guard down, she fired the flare gun into his mouth. The blast killed the fisherman instantly, his body falling lifeless. Exhausted, Kaya attempted to throw the distress signal into the water, but her strength failed her, and she collapsed before succeeding. As the night wore on, the signal eventually fell into the water due to the rocking of the boat. At sunrise, the police arrived and quickly deployed a helicopter for her rescue. Following Kaya's earlier report about Tisa, the authorities and rescue teams scoured the area and eventually found Tisa still alive, clinging to a floating buoy. She was rescued and taken aboard the helicopter. Upon reaching land, Kaya was reunited with her father and little brother, who embraced her with relief and joy. Kaya, though weakened and needing medical attention, would soon be taken to the hospital. As she and Tisa exchanged glances, it was clear they had both made a pact. They would never again seek healing at sea. Instead, they joked that they'd prefer healing on a cheaper, safer bridge with coffee vendors. At least no evil fisherman would be waiting there.